Okay, hey everybody, how we all doing today? All right, so starting this off a little bit different, I filmed my first reaction to One Piece Film Red a couple days ago after the first viewing. I just saw it in the Japanese, and then last night I saw it in the dub. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the first thing I recorded. It's like an hour and a half long where I go through the entire movie and give like my initial thoughts on it. However, I do miss some stuff, okay? And it'll be very apparent that I missed some stuff as you watch that part of the video. So after that's over, I'm going to add it in a chapter below. Like this will be like my second reaction to it after the first one, okay? So just keep that in mind. Also, I really want to say it was a good thing that I watched it twice. Because the first time going into it, obviously I didn't know what to expect. I knew some like basic plot beats about the movie, but I didn't know a lot. And so after I watched it a second time, I could pay attention more to like the plot progression and everything like that. Also, I mean, it was in English the second time, so I could like actually like, oh wait, that's what that scene was really more about. It just came across easier for me. So yeah, without further ado, here is the first reaction to my viewing of One Piece Film Red, and then we'll do the second reaction afterwards. Okay, see you then. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. One Piece Film Red discussion. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for this? No, you're not ready yet. We have to make one change first. Hold on. Whoa! Wow, yeah, that's maximum red right there. Okay. So, yeah, I saw a motion picture show the other day. I partook in One Piece Film Red. I saw it opening night. Thankfully, it was at a local theater. I didn't have to drive an hour and a half outside of town like I had to for Stampede, so that was really nice. I saw it in the original Japanese. I intended to see it in the dub. I just didn't get a chance to see it yet, but I will at some point while it's still airing because it's so close to me to go see it. But, you know, I think it's probably best I saw it in the original Japanese first because I think I saw Stampede in the dub first, and that didn't really matter so much, but with this one, with the songs, I don't know how the dub's going to handle the songs. If they're just gonna redo all of Otto's songs in like with an English voice actress or an English singer, or if they're gonna keep the same original songs in the Japanese, because the songs are very, very important to this movie. And I believe I should start off with this as like a non-spoiler, you know, section of this video, just really quick. I was going to suggest, you know, okay, non-spoiler based, should you go see this movie if you're a One Piece fan? And I would say there are a few caveats to that. There are a few conditions, one of which is if you are expecting this movie to play out in a similar vein to a lot of other recent One Piece movies, such as Strong World, Film Z, Film Gold, and Stampede, with the main enemy, of course, being a big, tough, strong, legendary old man, and then, you know, they beat down the Straw Hats in the first act, and then they get back up, and the Straw Hats are revitalized, and then Luffy punches out the big, strong, old guy at the end of it. If you're expecting that to be the flow of the movie, I mean, it's still at its core is basically that, except replace the big, strong, old legendary man with a Japanese idol, like pop singer. They're still very much like that, but it's not, it doesn't follow the same story beats. It is a different movie than Strong World and Stampede and Film Z and Film Gold, and I commend it for that, because I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed Stampede as an event when I went to go see it, and it was like opening night, and there were a lot of fans in the auditorium, and it was great, but every subsequent viewing that I've made of Stampede, just like watching it on my own, I had to do a discussion video about that movie, I'm like, yeah, this movie was like fun in that kind of setting, but I don't know if it was really all that great, especially with the hollowness of Douglas Bullett's character. I'll give it this much. In terms of character development, Uta is a million times more involved and in-depth, and we learn more about her and her trauma and everything than with Douglas Bullitt, who's like, I'm a big tough guy. I was on Roger's crew, then I wasn't, then I was in jail, and I became even more buff. And then I got out, and I don't know, I want to take over the world, beat all the pirates or something. I don't know, I'm Douglas Bullet, yeah. So, I think that was, with his character, I think we kind of hit the bottom of the barrel. And it was a good thing that, like, Oda, before this movie was, even, like, written, I think they were like, okay, Oda, what do you want to do for this next movie? And Oda was just like, I've been drawing a lot of old buff men for, like, the last 4 of these movies. Can we have, like, a woman as, like, the main antagonist of this, or as, like, the main character of this? And so I think that's really where Film Red began. So I'm going to start with that. As, like, one more thing for the non-spoilers, if you don't like music in your One Piece movies, okay, if you don't like a lot of J-pop and J-rock in your One Piece movies, you're also probably not going to like this. And I understand that. I get it, because it's like, if you go into a movie and it's not a musical in the traditional sense. It's not like, One Piece the musical. Although, I would go see One Piece the musical. I love musicals. But if you're going into a movie expecting, like, a traditional kind of One Piece setup, and you're getting all these songs, because there are a lot of songs. There's even an album that was released as well. You might be a little bit, like, oh, I'm not a fan of this. This is too much singing or something like that, So, if you really want this movie to work, you really gotta follow along with the music and the songs. In fact, you have to, because it's actually a very clever vehicle for Uta. She's somebody that doesn't really convey her emotions well, and she does it through song, so you really gotta pay attention to the songs that she sings, and in the order that she sings them, because, like, a lot of her character development and her inner feelings actually come through the music, okay? So I'm just saying, if you're not a fan of that particular medium, if that way of, like, of a movie playing out, probably not going to be for you. But if you like music, well, I should say, yeah, if you don't like music, then get out of here. If you do like music, it might just not be your type of music. You might just not like the Japanese, pop rock kind of like music that idols sing, because Otto is the singing voice for Uta in this movie, and that's the kind of music that it is. Okay, now, with that being said, before we get into the spoiler discussion, I have to say, Otto is a phenomenal singer, and she has insane range, okay? There are songs in this movie that feel you pumped up and, like, energized, like, yeah! And then there's songs that make you feel like just shouting and screaming in anger and rage. It's like, yeah! And then there's songs that make you feel really sad for Uta, just like, yeah. And then there's songs that just break your sanity, okay? So the range is really impeccable here, and there is an album. You could go check it out. It's on YouTube, and so I have all the songs kind of written down here and kind of what they represent throughout the movie. So that's a big factor here. Oh, one more thing, and this is sort of half spoilers, okay? So if you want, like, no major spoilers for the rest of this movie, maybe stop right here. If you want, like, a half spoiler, it's not a spoiler. This was announced it's in the name of the movie. The name of the movie is One Piece Film Red. I got this shirt back at Anime Expo. Steve Aoki was there. But anyway, yeah. Roger Base actually got me this shirt. It was really cool. So anyway, it's One Piece Film Red. So, Shanks was in the promotional material. Is Shanks in the movie? That's, like, a big question that a lot of people had. Like, where is Shanks's place in this movie? Is he the main character? Is he in it from the beginning? Does he not show up until the very end? Was he in a post-credit scene? Like, what's up with Shanks in this movie? Okay, so when this movie was first released back in August, okay, I saw a post by somebody, I don't remember who it was, somebody that had seen the movie in Japan, and I was reading about, like, the plot beats of the movie, and this person was, like, answering questions about the movie, and I believe, from what I read, I think that person said that, oh yeah, Shanks shows up in the latter half of it, and that's not wrong, but I took it to mean that, like, the entire half of this movie's about 2 hours long, okay? So the way I took that to mean is, like, the last hour of this movie, the second half, has a lot of Shanks in it. Shanks is about in 1/3 of this, maybe a quarter of, like, where he's actually there doing stuff. He does do stuff, okay? But it's very much kind of, like, in the last act final battle moment, okay? There's a lot of flashbacks with Shanks, like, earlier on in the movie, of course, and those are even shown in the trailer. But like when it comes to Shanks actually arriving in the present and actively doing stuff, yeah, that's not until like maybe being generous the last third of this movie, which is still like, let's be honest here, more of Shanks than we've like gotten throughout the entire 1,000 plus episodes of the anime. Let's be straight up here. And you do get to see the red-haired pirates and how they fight, which are probably going to be utilized later on in the story when Oda finally gets to that moment where we see the red-haired pirates fighting in the manga. So we get to see some of their abilities and how they fight as a cohesive unit, because we've never even really saw that before. So we do get development with the red-hair crew. It's just, if you were expecting this movie to be like Shanks from the get-go and he shows up and like does Shanks meet Luffy? Okay, they meet in this movie. Luffy is asleep during it. He's unconscious. He's in a coma. So if you ever wanted the big epic reunion between Shanks and Luffy, no, that does technically happen, but it's just Luffy's in a coma when it happens. So probably not what most people were expecting. Okay. So that's the situation with Shanks. We'll get to more into that as we go into the actual plot of the movie. Okay, so that's no spoilers and then half spoilers, and now we're going full spoiler ahead. Just, okay, here we are. I'm going to put on my jacket for this, okay? Because, you know, Uta's an idol, and she has this really cool jacket with this, like, giant hood in this movie. Also, the thing that, you know, she always shows up in different outfits for whatever, like, trailer or posters. You know, she has wings in some of them. She's wearing the big giant, you know, hoodie and, like, the Letterman jacket in one of them. Yeah, that's all explained in this movie in terms of like costume changes and everything. It's like, okay. So, let's just, yeah, so the movie literally kicks off with a concert happening. Like, there is an island called Elgia, which is going to be the main event of this entire movie. The whole movie basically takes place on Elgia. It is an island in the New World, and Uta, who is already revered around the world as this ultimate, like, musical sensation, as like, you know, the One Piece world equivalent of an idol. You know, she's been performing a bunch of these concerts through Visual Den Den Mushi, and this is her first in appearance live concert going on Elgia. Okay, so everybody is showing up to this. You know, the Straw Hats are there, Bartolomeo is there, you know, the Marines are there. We see Kobe and Helmeppo, Oven and Brule are there. So for whatever reason, they decided to pick those two particular characters. Well, I know why they picked Brule, and we'll get back to that. Oven, for whatever reason, I don't know. They could have picked Daifuku. They could have picked anybody. They could have picked Smoothie. They could have picked literally any other member of the Charlotte family. It just really feels like they picked Oven just out of a hat. Like, yeah, Oven, he's going to be the one to do it. Katakuri's in this movie, too. And I should talk about placement really quick in terms of continuity. So it's a movie, so keep in mind this is not all going to line up 100%. Zoro has Enma, and Luffy is still referred to as the Fifth Emperor. Big Mom is still active in the world, and she's still the captain of her own crew. So that's what I mean. Like, in theory, this movie would take place after Wano. And if we're going full spoilers ahead, there is a scene, a very, very brief scene at the end of the movie during the final clash that Shanks and Luffy have in separate worlds, where Luffy does go into his Gear 5th form. You see it in, like, an outline, and then you see it from a distance, like his whole body in white with the white shirt and white hair and, like, you know, doing the position. But it's like at a distance and from behind. You don't see his face in that angle at it. You do see his face close up, but it's like in silhouette kind of thing, where everything is either like, you know, a red background with like white lines to make up his face, like just the line art essentially. It's kind of hard to explain. So in theory, this movie would take place after Wano, except Big Mom is still alive, and also, or Big Mom is still active, because we don't know 100% if she's dead yet in the manga, but Big Mom is still active, and also Luffy is referred to as the Fifth Emperor still. So it's in that weird place, parallel dimension, where Zoro still somehow has Enma and Luffy has Gear 5th, but he's not a Yonko yet properly. Okay, so that's the placement in the movie. So everybody on the Straw Hats seems to be a big fan. You know, obviously Sanji is a huge fan of Uta. We have Usopp, who's dressed like Gene Simmons from Kiss. We have Frankie, who has like the giant, like, 1980s big cassette player on his shoulders. Everybody looks really cool in this movie. Oh, one thing I will say I really appreciate. So in a lot of One Piece movies, the Straw Hats obviously go through multiple costume changes. And in this movie, I was like looking at their initial costumes where like Jinbei's dressed like Elvis, and, you know, Usopp's like Gene Simmons and everything. And I was like, and Robin has this really cool like leather jacket, like this black leather jacket she's wearing. wearing. She looks awesome. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, man, I really hope it's not one of those movies where it's like these are their initial costumes and then they change out of them within like the first 10 minutes of the movie, because that happens before. The Straw Hats are in those musical outfits, like Jinbei's dressed like Elvis for like the majority of this movie until the last third. Like when Shanks starts showing up, that's when they have their major costume change, the only costume change, where they get like the really badass, like everyone's wearing leather and spikes and chains and spiky hair and tattoos, and that makes sense as well, as we'll get to that. But just in terms of the Straw Hats and their costume changes, that's good. I should also talk about that now. Do the Straw Hats really have a big moment in this movie? I could see that they definitely wanted to give each of the Straw Hats a moment to shine. And they do, but in some cases, that is all they have. They have literally a moment to shine, as in they have like a moment where they attack, and that was their big moment, and that's it, okay? Some of the Straw Hats do more than others in this movie. Obviously, Luffy does a lot. Robin actually is part of, like, learning a little bit about the history of the island and the main threat they actually have to deal with, which is this slumbering music demon, basically. So she has relevance there. But when it comes to... There's a brief... I was really disappointed that Brook does not do as much as he does. That was a point of disappointment, because I'm like, man, this is a movie all about music. I thought there was going to be a scene where, like, Brook was going to hop on stage with Uta, and they were going to do, like, a duet or something. Like, I was looking forward to that, and that does not happen. There is a moment where Brook's musical knowledge, the fact he is a musician, actually does come into play. But once again, it's a very brief moment that really doesn't coalesce in anything huge, okay? They have, like, and a lot of the other Straw Hats, like Frankie, they have, like, a moment where, like, here's my big attack, here's my Frankie Radical Beam, where he, like, spins around and, like, nukes the entire area, and that's kind of, like, that's Frankie's moment. Like, that's his scene right then and there, right? That's pretty much it. Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei, they have their big high-octane attacks, you know, like 2 or 3 times in the movie, and then that's pretty much it there. Jinbei, you know, this is his first movie as a Straw Hat. Not really focused on it all, not really. And I wasn't, like, expecting that. Keep in mind, I'm not saying that as, like, man, they don't even utilize Jinbei in this movie. No, I wasn't expecting that. I was honestly expecting it going into this. This is going to be a movie about Uta and her relationship with Shanks. And that is true. That is what this movie is about. There was not as much Shanks as I expected, which I feel like that's going to be, like, if there's going to be any major complaints about this, that's probably going to be it. And I haven't seen a lot of other... I know Murphy just did a video about it. I know Liam, I think, put his video out either today or last night, because he's Australian, so time zones. I haven't seen his yet either. I don't know what the main focus of complaints about this movie are going to be, but I have a feeling some of them might be like, you know... Shanks is not in it as much as we would have expected it, and that is true, okay? Or we don't get as much development, or I think a lot of people wanted backstory from Shanks. We wanted to know a little bit more about his character that might be relevant in the manga, and, you know, it's a movie, so, like, I think that's maybe a little bit too, wishing too much, you know? It's just like, we're gonna go to a movie and find out some really important things about Shanks. We actually do find out about something involving Shanks' past, involving Roger and Rayleigh, and how they found Shanks as, like, an orphan, which that is probably the most impressive, like, thing we learn about Shanks' past, like, the most relevant thing to the actual story. And it's not even explained in the movie. It's something we see a brief shot of it in the movie where it doesn't make any sense unless you know the context, and you get the context in like a little leaflet that you get in the movie. Like, this is like the backstory of Shanks or something. And I'll just say it now because we're in spoiler territory. So Shanks was found by Roger and Rayleigh in a treasure chest on God Valley. Okay, so, and that is mirrored in this movie where we see a flashback of how the red-haired pirates found Uta, and it's the same thing where Shanks opens up a treasure chest and a baby Uta is inside of the treasure chest, and she starts crying, and Shanks tries to sing to her to make her, you know, stop crying. And so Shanks remembers how Roger found him, and we see a brief scene of just like a treasure chest opening and then Roger and Rayleigh like looking inside of it like, what? And then that's all we get. It wasn't explained in the movie that it was God Valley, but that was something that was explained. So that part is probably that's the most backstory, the most canon backstory we are probably going to get, that Oda felt like, okay, I can throw this in there. All right, so Shanks was found 38 years ago in a treasure chest at God Valley. How did Shanks end up in God Valley? Does he have any relationship to the Tenryubito? What about him coming from the West Blue if he was found in God Valley? Those are all wonderful questions, and they will hopefully be answered later in the manga, and I will make a video about that later on in another time at another place, okay? At another place. I'm going to do that video over there in that corner of my room. Okay, but that's the situation with Shanks. Okay, so let's talk about Uta now at this point. This is going to be the big bulk of this, okay? I'm not going to really go through beat by beat in the movie like every individual scene, because Uta is sort of the keystone of all this. So, like, let's just go with her. I feel like I should honestly... I feel like I should do this chronologically, like Uta's entire story, her entire life, as we learn about it throughout the movie, because I'm assuming at this point you've either seen the movie and you know what happens, or, you know, you don't care to see the movie and you just want to hear me, like spoil it for you and just explain it to you, okay? So, yeah, let's just do that, all right? So, if you saw the episodes in the anime, the 2 episodes that actually show Uta's past, that's important. It really is, to kind of, like, get the whole context of this. I believe there was also, there was also the little manga panels, like we had, like how Uta came up with her songs, okay? So that's also something relevant maybe you should read as, like, you know, supplemental material there. Okay, so Uta was discovered in a treasure chest by Shanks when she was a little baby. Shanks is not Uta's biological father, all right? Uta actually has 2 stepfathers in this movie, and we do not know about her biological parents. This does follow along with the theme of One Piece, of, like, it's not really so much about, like, your blood relations. It's more about, like, you know, the people that actually raise you, those kind of connections, those kind of inherited wills, rather than just blood, okay? But blood, in a sense, is still important because, you know, like, you know, Ace being the son of Roger, that is relevant. Luffy being the son of Dragon the Revolutionary, that is also relevant in some way. It's just that Luffy himself doesn't really care about it, okay? But no, yeah, I was a little disappointed, to be honest with you. I was kind of like, oh man, they're gonna make Shanks a dad, okay? Because that was like a big thing when we found out that, like, Uta is Shanks' daughter? What? And it's like, I was hoping they weren't gonna do like, oh, you were just my adopted daughter. I was hoping there was gonna be like a whole story there. I was hoping there was gonna be like, okay, who's Uta's mom? Who did Shanks, you know, get with or whatever? Like, nope. They just found her, just a baby inside of a treasure chest. And it's like, we don't even know the place she came from. It's just like, oh, there's just a treasure chest from that island that we stole from. It's like, oh, there's a baby. Okay. You know, and that's her origin. Okay. She grows up on the Red Hair Pirates ship. She becomes their musician. And she also has the power, we don't know when she eats it, but she has the power of the Uta Uta no Mi, or the Song Fruit, which will be very, 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 very underlined, very relevant in this movie. When she was 9 years old, that's when Shanks first docked at the Goa Kingdom at Fuchsia Village, and that's where the episodes pick up. The 2 episodes in the anime where Luffy, before Luffy even had his scar, before he met Shanks, before he ate his devil fruit, met Uta at the very beginning, okay? And that was an interesting 2-episode special, just because we got to see, like, Luffy meeting Shanks for the first time, okay? So we got to see the backstory there of, like, Luffy and Uta playing around the Goa Kingdom and, like, Fuchsia Village and riding on the windmills and looking around and everything like that, and her singing her songs, you know, Where the Wind Blows. That was a very prominent song in that episode, and so we get a little bit of that. And then those episodes end where one day Shanks returns and Uta's not on the ship, and all of the red hair pirates look very somber and sad, and Shanks basically says to Luffy's like, hey, where's Uta at, Shanks? Did something happen to Uta? And then Shanks is like, oh, Luffy, don't worry about it. Uta's fine. She just went off to become a famous singer. Okay. And then Shanks just walks away, and that's the only explanation we get. But apparently it was something that the Red Hair Pirates were very torn up about. Okay. So now, this is what happened. All right, I'm just gonna start with this. Okay, so the red hair pirates arrive at a island called Elgia, which is where the concert takes place in the present storyline. But this was back when Uta was 9 years old. So this was about she's 21 right now, so 11. So this would have been like 12 years ago. Okay, so they arrive at a place called Elgia. Elgia was known as, just like how Drum Island was known as the country of doctors, you know, and every island kind of has a theme. Like Baltimore was the island of the future land. Elgia is the island of music, which I like that. That's perfect. That fits perfectly well in the One Piece world, okay? An island where everybody loves music, everybody sings songs, and there's conductors and orchestras and operas and all that kind of jazz, and there's jazz. You know, do you like jazz? Because it's on this island. All these different kinds of music. It actually kind of looks like Hogwarts at a few instances where they talk about Elgia in its prime when there were people living there, when everybody was still alive. And we see shots of, like, honestly, I think it was inspired by Hogwarts, because like there's a shot of like this big like university where everybody's learning music, and they're walking around in like black cloaks with like yellow, blue, red, green trim that look like Hogwarts houses. There's a scene where we see like the Great Hall where they're all hanging out like eating, and it looks like the Great Hall from Harry Potter. So that had to have been an inspiration there. Like, you know, music is magic, ladies and gentlemen. So they arrive there, and the entire populace of the town is just like Uta's voice is like incredible. Like, she has the song fruit, and she's singing these songs, and it kind of like captures the whole island, and they're really impressed by her talent. The king of the island is a man named Gordon. We got to see him previously. He kind of looks like Frankenstein's monster. I originally assumed that he was going to be the villain of the movie, so sorry, Gordon. No, Gordon is a nice guy. Gordon is actually Uta's other stepfather, basically. After Shanks leaves, he becomes her stepdad, okay? And he's a good guy. Gordon is a good dude. He's not the villain in this, all right? So, yeah. Anyway, they basically are like, wow, Uta's here. This is great. And Uta has to make a decision whether or not she wants to stay on this island and go to music Hogwarts and learn about, you know, music and everything like that, and train to become a really good, talented singer, and then, you know, follow that path, or if she wants to continue traveling with the Red Hair crew. And it's a very difficult choice for her, but it seems like she is about to make the decision to go with the Red Hair crew and continue to travel with them as a pirate, okay? Now, also on Elgia, there is a forbidden piece of sheet music, all right, called Tot Musica. The literal translation of this is all music, okay? It's just like how Totland or Totoland means all nations, all countries into one. That was Big Mom's territory, her dream. Tot Musica just means all music together in one piece, okay? So there are these old, like, parchments, like this old scrolls of music, like of sheet music, right? And it can only, it's actually, if anybody sings this song that has the song fruit power, then it awakens an ancient music demon that's also called Tot Musica. So it's like the name of the sheet music. It's also the name of this ancient demon that will awaken and like bring about the apocalypse, end of the world, doomsday kind of crap, okay? So because Uta has the song fruit, when she visits the island, the music kind of like the sheet music sort of senses her presence, and it, like, appears before her, and Uta's, like, 9, so she has no idea. She just sees these old, shriveled-up parchments on a couch, and she looks at them, and she's like, oh, okay, and she sings the song, awakening this ancient music demon that kills, like, the entire island's population. Like, everybody dies. The only person on the island that's, like, from the island that doesn't die is Gordon, the king. Everybody else dies. It is a mass slaughter, okay? This thing is like a giant kaiju that's spitting like energy beams and shit and just burning the whole damn island down. So, because the Red Hair crew is there, they are able to beat it back, because the Red Hair crew is badass, of course. So Shanks is there, no real worries. I mean, the entire island dies, everyone dies, but, you know, Shanks is able to defeat this ancient demon, okay? And so then Uta is, well, actually, he doesn't really, they're able to fight it back. I mean, they're able to, like, you know, weaken it or whatever. But essentially, Uta, she, because she's so young at this point, she can't, like, maintain the music or whatever, so she basically passes out. And when she passes out, the demon, like, disappears, and I think, because of Shanks as well, like, they're able to beat it back or whatever, okay? So Uta loses consciousness, and the entire island is, like, in flames, okay? And so the Marines are showing up, and the Marines are gonna, like, what happened here? Like, this entire island got wiped out. So Shanks decides, like, oh, don't worry, I'll take the rap for this. I'll be like, oh, it was the red-haired pirates that burned Elgia to the ground and killed everybody on the island. All right, and Gordon's like, are you sure you want to do that? And he's like, yeah, no, it's fine. We're pirates, so it's a perfect thing that we do anyway, right? So that is when they leave Uta. Yeah, they decide to leave Uta there on the island with just Gordon. Everybody else is dead. And, oh, by the way, there's also an ancient demon that's sleeping under the island in the form of sheet music that can only be unlocked with a user of the Song fruit, which, by the way, what devil fruit does Uta have again? Oh, yeah, the Song fruit. Okay, so anyway, that happens, and Uta spends pretty much the rest of her life essentially alone. I mean, Gordon is there, and Gordon continues to teach her about music and everything in her formative years as she grows up, but she really has no contact with the outside world. She's very sheltered, and as she grows up, though, one day she discovers visual den mushies that just washed ashore on the beach, which, by the way, this is starting to get into the point where it doesn't make a lot of sense continuity-wise, because the visual den mushies just have SSG written on them, which is the special science group headed up by Vegapunk, but that did not exist because this was apparently 2 years ago. This was apparently during, like, pre-time skip One Piece. She was living on this island, completely sheltered. She had no contact with the outside world, and then all of a sudden she finds these visual den mushies, and she begins to become, she becomes a YouTuber. She becomes a Twitch streamer or whatever. She basically begins to sing her music over, broadcast outside of the island, and so she gets a bunch of fans all over the world, okay? And then after 2 years, kind of the same thing with Brook becoming the Soul King. Brook, for 2 years, nobody knew who he was, and then after those 2 years, it's like, oh, he's the Soul King. He's awesome. So kind of the same situation with Uta as well. And so after 2 years, Uta is now this super famous person. She's got millions of One Piece. She's got millions of Den Mushi subscribers, I guess. And then so she decides to do this concert, okay? And the reason she decides to do the concert is because she's so sheltered. She doesn't really understand anything about global politics or, like, what's really going on in the world. So all of her fans are, like, listening to her, and they're like, oh, thank you, Uta, so much. Pirates just attacked my town. It's so sad here. The Marines aren't doing anything. Your music is the only thing that gets me through the day. And you can kind of see where this is going at this point. So Uta decides, like, oh, okay, everybody's really sad in the world. People are upset because of pirates. And the Marines are supposed to be good, but they're not helping. And then there's the Celestial Dragons, which is also a problem. I know, I'll throw a concert, and everybody will come together and sing, and happiness, and everything will be cool. And, on the surface, that's not a bad idea. And honestly speaking, Uta's really, like, okay, at the beginning of this movie, she's not a villain at all. And at the middle point, it's like maybe she is the villain, but you begin to understand what's really going on here. And I find it very difficult to paint Uta as the villain here, okay? Honestly, the reason why most of the bad shit that happens in this movie happens is because Uta is very sheltered. She has abandonment issues from Shanks, which, by the way, Shanks is really more of the villain here, if anything. I mean, maybe like, whoa! I'm like, yeah, he kind of is. He kind of is. This is kind of a lot of the shit that happens in this movie that Uta has to go through and struggle. It's basically all Shanks' fault, so we'll get to that soon. But anyway, so she's very sheltered, she has abandonment issues, and then out of nowhere, she gets contact with the outside world, and she just learns about all the things in the world, but she doesn't understand the dynamics of everything. So she's just like, okay, I'm gonna throw a concert and use my power to make everybody have a fun and happy existence, and they'll just spend all their time singing and being happy with me for all time. And I'll make puppies and kittens and rainbows, and everybody can eat their favorite food and candy, and they'll stay with me forever. And it's like, there's a way to paint that motivation in a very negative way. Take Big Mom, for instance. Big Mom's like, on the surface, her dream seems like a good thing. Like, I want to make a nation where all of the races of the world can come together and live in harmony. Yes, except the way that Big Mom goes about that is entirely skewed in a negative way, right? Okay, where she's like resorting to like paying Caesar to perform like gigantification drug treatment on like, kidnapped children, okay? So, yeah, there's problems with this, right? But with Uta, in her case, it's not the best way to go about it, but it's like you can kind of understand why. All right, this is a girl that has spent her entire life, like until she was 9 years old, okay, she only traveled with the red-haired pirates, and that was it. And then from the ages of 9 to 21, she lived just with Gordon, this old butler, Frankenstein-looking dude, on an island completely, devoid of anybody else, any other human contact. She had no contact with, like, the outside world. She read some books. That's it, okay? And then then it's like, imagine out of nowhere, okay? You go most of your entire life with very minimal contact with the outside world, okay? And then imagine at age 19, all of a sudden, you get access to the internet. And like Twitter and Reddit and social media and YouTube and Twitch and all that crap. And it's like just immediately just like all this crap just washes over you. And it's like, okay, here's the world. And then it's like, okay, now give that person God powers. And like, all right, here are the God powers. You just learned about the world through social media. Have fun. You can fix this, right? And then like, imagine like, no shit, that person is really gonna drop the ball, even if they have the best intentions. And Uta is a good person. She is not a bad person. It's just that she doesn't understand anything about the world. She has really, really deep-seated complexes and traumas and anxieties, and she has not gone to therapy for any of that shit. And so she's just like, I'm gonna throw a concert and everybody will be happy because people like music, right? And then we'll just stay in my concert forever and everything will be great. It's like, can you really blame her for arriving? Oh, and she's also been popping mushrooms. That is, I'm not even kidding, that is a major impression in this movie. That's a major plot point where in order to, because her ability only works when she's conscious, okay? When she falls asleep, it becomes inactive. So she's literally just been like, like chowing down on the magic mushrooms called wake shrooms that just make you stay awake. So she's just wired on like trucker pills the entire movie and just like, okay, everybody, I haven't slept in 2 weeks, let's sing a concert. Yeah. And it's like and also, as Sanji mentions later on in the movie, the magic mushrooms that she's just like, she has a whole basket of those damn things. She's just like, oh yeah, need the mushrooms, need to stay awake, need to save the world, singing happiness. Yeah. Sanji also mentions that like, yeah, that also increases like your, aggression towards people. It makes you very, very emotional. Also the fact that she hasn't slept in like 2 weeks, and she is so close to death from just lack of sleep. Like in the movie, like during when the concert's happening and everything, they're like, yeah, Uta probably only has like a couple hours left to live. So a combination of overexerting herself with her devil fruit, much like how Law's devil fruit burns a lot of stamina when he constantly uses it all the time. Same thing with Uta when she uses her song fruit. Okay, so what is the song fruit? I feel like I'm almost 40 minutes into this video. I haven't even talked about what this ability is yet. But once again, I'm making the video with the assumption you've already seen the movie, okay? So the song fruit, oh boy, okay. So the user eats it and sings a song. Whoever hears the song falls asleep. It could be an entire crowd of people. You cannot stop this. It doesn't matter if you have hockey, doesn't matter. You hear this song, you go to sleep. There are certain ways around this, like if you put on like earmuffs or like earplugs or something, or like noise canceling headphones or something. If you don't hear the song, kind of like with Scratchman Apu's, so it's very important to distinguish between the two. So Uta has the Uta no Mi, which is the song fruit, like the actual act of singing a song. Scratchman Apu has the Oto no Mi, which could be translated as the sound fruit. So his ability is more about just making noises. Uta's is the essence of an actual song. Okay, so it's kind of hard to explain. It might be not, but there is a difference between the two. Okay. By the way, Apu's not even in this movie, which is strange. You'd think that he would also be in it at some point. Like, he's whatever, and it doesn't matter. Okay. So anybody that hears it falls asleep. It doesn't matter. Nothing can protect you unless you block out the sound. Okay. When you fall asleep, your body in the real world goes into basically a low-grade coma, like you're unconscious. Meanwhile, your soul, your consciousness, gets transported to a magical world called Uta World, or Song World, where Uta, the user of the Uta Uta no Mi, is essentially God. She can kind of... Now, when I say that, there are caveats. She can't just do anything. There are limitations even when you are trapped in the song world. However, what she can do is basically defeat, like, she defeats the entire Straw Hat crew in like less than a 2-minute song. Okay, so that gives you an impression. She defeats them and pins them to like a music note sheet in essentially less than like 2 minutes. She defeats really strong pirates like Oven, Brule. She like wipes them all out very quickly. Okay, so that's not really a problem for her. She could summon armor. There's a scene where she wears this really badass like golden armor with a shield and spear. She can create pretty much anything she puts her mind to. She can make physical objects out of anything. She can generate food. She can make objects. She can make weapons. She can make other soldiers like her. Like she can make her own private army to fight for her. They look pretty cool. They have like music notes on their body. They kind of look like Kamen Rider-esque characters with like capes and the eyes and everything. And they have spears and they go around and fight and everything like that. However, there are set limits to what she can do. One thing she cannot do is she cannot manipulate other people's minds even while they're in her world. She can't just you will think this way, you will be brainwashed to always dance with me. She can't do that. They still have their own free will even when they're trapped in Uta World. Okay. Also, she can't just look at Luffy and say I take away your devil fruit powers or I take away your haki. Can't do that either. So the people that are trapped in Uta World, even though their real bodies are in the real world unconscious, Luffy can still use his Gamu Gamu no Mi. He could still go into Gear 4th. He could still use his haki. Same thing with all the other characters. And this is why I think we had Brule in the movie. We have Brule in the movie. We also have Law in the movie, and we have Blueno in the movie. So Blueno's there. And the reason for that is because these characters all have teleportation-based devil fruits. Brule has... So the Mirror World. The Mirror World even still works in this other dimension that Uta created. Blueno's Door fruit, the air door, that still works. Law's room still works. So Law opens up a room, he can still move things around, and Uta really can't do much about it. Now, one other scene in the movie that when I first saw it and I wasn't sure we were in the Uta world yet, I was like, oh, that better be in the alternate dimension, because that really hurt my brain. There was a scene where Luffy's on stage and he's trying to stop Uta, and then all of a sudden some people show up and then just throw buckets of salt water onto Luffy, and he instantly becomes weak. Okay. That's not how that works. The devil fruit weakness, it's like Luffy gets splashed. It's like someone takes out a super soaker of seawater and just sprays Luffy with it and I'm so weak now. That is not how that works. And I'm like, oh, they better not make that. And you know what? Even though it was in the Uta world, so Uta basically, as the god of that world, was basically seawater hurts devil fruit users. So she can't take away Luffy's power or his free will or brainwash him or whatever, but she can basically be okay, in my world, even getting splashed with seawater is enough to injure or weaken a devil fruit user, and that's how it works. Okay, she can kind of change the laws of reality and physics to an extent, okay? But it's a really great extent. Also, by the way, I feel like that's really funny because Uta is somebody that doesn't know a lot about the outside world. She doesn't know a lot about other devil fruit powers. She's a devil fruit user, so she knows she's weak to seawater. So she's probably just oh, I'm going to rewrite the rules so that any type of seawater, even if you get a drop on it, splashed on you, it weakens you. That's kind of funny because it's just man, I don't know much about the One Piece series. I think the power works like this. And then it's just that's what happens, okay? So the Straw Hats get captured very early on in the movie. Luffy manages to get away. Law is there, and Bartolomeo is also there. So Bartolomeo, it's such a weird kind of crew that Luffy has to gather together at some point. We have Luffy, Bartolomeo, Blueno, Kobe Helmeppo, Law, and Beppo. Oh, by the way, the funniest, I gotta talk about the objectively funniest scene in any One Piece movie ever. Like, this is peak comedy here. This was the funniest shit that I've ever seen, okay? Like, when I went to go see this movie, it was like opening night. It was a Thursday night. There was like not even 10 people in the theater. And so maybe if like there was a bigger crowd, it would have gotten a much bigger laugh, okay? But I watched this movie and I was like, I saw this scene with Beppo and Law and I was like, I didn't want to be, there's only like 8 people in the theater. I didn't want to be like the idiot that was like, so I was like, but like this was so fucking funny. Okay. So I got to set the scene for you here, okay? So Bartolomeo manages to get away from Uta. He manages to escape with Luffy, okay? So they get away, and they're on top of, like, this tower. And in the in the tower, there's, like, a darkened room, okay? And then Law walks out from the darkened room, okay? So Law's there. And then, Bartolomeo's like, Trafalgar, you're here, too. That means you're a fan of Uta. You came to her concert. And Law is just like... And he's wearing, like, he's wearing, like, vacation clothes. He's wearing, like, a Hawaiian shirt. He's got Kikoku. He's got his hat. And Law is just there, just, like, super serious. He's just like, no, I'm just a chaperone. And then out of the darkness walks Beppo, wearing this super tight Uta shirt and this giant, like, machine thing on his back that, like, unfurls and it says, like, Uta in big neon letters, and it plays this little song and it, like, shoots little lights and stuff, and it's just like, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and just like, I'm just a chaperone. Beppo walks out, do-do-do-do-do-do, for Beppo, and Beppo just, without missing a beat, is like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, that killed me, man. That killed me. The timing of that, if you know a lot about the characters, and I'm sitting there, like, for the next scene, I'm not even really paying what's attention to the movie. I'm just like, wait a second, whoa. That means that, like, imagine the Heart Pirates in their submarine, right? And they're sailing along. And Beppo is this polar bear mink, and he's a huge fan of Uta, right? And he's like a little kid that's just like, he goes up to Law and he's like, Captain, I really want to go to Uta's concert and I don't want to go by myself, so could you please take me to Uta's concert, please? Like, it's like a little kid that can't drive and he really wants to go do something, but it's like, he's like, his parents aren't into it. It's like when I was a little kid and I'm like, begging my parents to go take me to like Pokemon movies, or, oh, you know what? The Pokemon movie wasn't that bad, actually. I think my parents, because I was really young at that point. I was like 5 when the first Pokemon movie came out. When the first Yu-Gi-Oh movie came out, I was 11. When Pyramid of Light came out, my dad, I thank him to this day. I was 11. I couldn't drive. The nearest movie theater's like 30-something minutes away. I had to go to my dad and like, Dad... Because my dad doesn't give a shit about Yu-Gi-Oh! You know what I mean? And I'm like, Dad, I really want to go see this movie. Could you please take me to go see Yu-Gi-Oh! The Pyramid of Light? And my dad's like, okay, fine. And he drives me. And I remember it was a packed theater. There was so many kids in there. And like, it was like trading Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. Like, what Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards did you get? Because you got Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in the theater. And I'm sitting there watching the movie. And I'm loving it, and everyone else in the theater's loving it. I remember I look over to my dad at one point, and my dad's just like he's not asleep, but he's like kind of just like, I don't understand anything about what this movie is, And I'm like, so that's the vibe I get from Beppo and Law, where Beppo's like, please, Captain, and Law does not give a crap about Uta, or it's not like, that's not the kind of music Law listens to. He doesn't care, but Beppo is his friend. Beppo is his nakama. They've been friends ever since Law was a little kid in the North Blue and helped him through a lot of really troubling parts of his life. And Law is like, okay, Beppo, I'll take you to the concert. And Beppo's like, yay! movie, and he starts working on his cosplay and his shirt and this big giant like light show fog machine thing he's got on his back, and he's like, okay, Captain, let's go, I'm so excited. And Law is just there like, okay. It's just like he's there for Beppo, and it's the most adorable thing in the entire movie, bar none. It's the funniest scene. They milk it a little bit because there's other scenes where they're having like a really serious conversation where Luffy, Bartolomeo, Law, and Beppo and Gordon, they all get together, and Gordon is like explaining like, you know, there's this thing called top musica. It's a really dangerous piece of sheet music. If Uta sings it, it could be like the end of the world kind of thing. And so while that conversation is going on, Beppo's little like light show thing goes off like 3 or 4 times, and it's like, sorry guys, I can't turn it off. I'm sorry, I didn't. And so, you know, it drags on a little bit too much, but I'm like, that first scene with Law and Beppo was like, that was comedy gold, man. That was great. That was awesome. I love that. That was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. There's also really good scenes in the movie. It's just like that was the one that had the most reaction out of me. All right. So Uta traps everybody in this world in the concert. She gets the whole concert venue together. There's tens of thousands of people here all over the One Piece world, okay, that want to forget their troubles, that all don't like pirates, and some of them don't like Marines. Some of the Marines are there, and Uta traps them all, and the Straw Hats, and the Big Mom Pirates, and everybody in this world. Her concert is also streamed all over the world, and we see people listening to it, even through the visual Den Mushis, falling asleep into her world from other parts of the world. Yeah, I said world about 3 times there, but so we see her ability even works across visual Den Mushis, and it's knocking people out. Although it's sort of selective, like Big Mom is watching the concert on a visual Den Mushi, and she doesn't get knocked out and doesn't go into Uta world. The Gorosei are watching it, but I think they have the sound muted. I guess that's also a way that you can get around Uta's ability, just like push mute. Like there you go if you're watching it on a Den Mushi or whatever. So, okay, so they all get trapped in this world, and she begins to sing her songs, okay? Like, the movie opens up with them kind of already being trapped in Uta world, like in the first scene, okay? So I'm going to go through Uta's songs here throughout the movie, because it tells a story of her life. It's how she copes and conveys with her own trauma and her own issues that she has with being abandoned by Shanks and kind of wiping out an entire island. When she was on Elgia, like during her teenage years, she finds a visual Den Mushi that replays the whole event of her summoning top musica and killing everybody on the island. So she knows about what's happening. So she has mountains of guilt about that, you know, okay? So the first song she sings that opens up the movie is probably the song you've heard the most in like the trailers. It's New Genesis, okay? And I gotta be honest with you, it's a good song. It's a good song. I've heard this song so many times at this point through all of the promotional material. I was kind of sick of it, okay? When I was at Anime Expo back in July, there was a big One Piece film red display in, like, the center concourse. Like, when you first walk in, there was a giant inflatable Luffy there, and there was a big screen that was playing the trailer of One Piece film red over and over again, and the trailer starts with New Genesis every single time. So I was at that convention for 4 days with the One Piece D&D crew, and I must have heard New Genesis, like, dozens and dozens of times over the course of those days. Not to say it was a bad song. It's just you listen to a song over and 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 over again. It's like wherever it is, that's the song. You get kind of sick of it. So I was actually honestly happy, though, they started the movie with that. Because I'm like, okay, great. They're starting with New Genesis. Good. Just get that out of the way and we're good. All right? Just please don't let this be a movie where there's like New Genesis reprised version. I'm like, oh, no. But no, just one time for New Genesis. It's great. So this song represents Uta's ideal dream. This is the culmination of her ultimate dream that she came up with, her idea to save the entire world. She's going to be the one that draws everybody into the Uta world. They're going to stay there forever and sing songs with her. And because all she knows about the outside world is she has her fans that are like, Uta, I love your music. I wish I could just listen to it forever and forget about all my sorrows. There's like little kids that are watching her and like, you know, cosplaying as Uta, like, Uta, we love you. And Uta Uta takes that literally. Uta takes it literally because she just doesn't know any better. And she's like, okay, they love my music. They want to listen to it forever. Okay, if I can just make that happen, I can save the world. Okay, so you can't really blame her for that. All right, she doesn't know any better. So she sings New Genesis as like her ultimate goal, her visage that she paints herself as. Like, I will be the savior of this world. Okay, she's masking. This is Uta in her ideal self. She's masking all her guilt, all of her abandonment issues, her mushroom dependency, which that is an issue, okay? You know, careful doing drugs, kids. You know, she's masking all of that, layer and layer and layer of masks, and she's painting herself as the ideal Japanese idol that's just flawless and perfect in every way, and that she will use her ability to save the entire world, okay? She's an angel descended from heaven to save everybody, okay? That's New Genesis, and that's like the welcome to my world, the New Genesis, the new era. This is my era where we're all going to live in peace and harmony and happiness together, okay? She has no real means of making that an actual thing forever. You know, she's going to die before that would even happen, but this is her ideal version of herself. Then after that, we have a great song. I believe this is where, okay, so there's a group of pirates that, like, attack Uta, you know, while she's singing at the concert, you know, because Luffy shows up, and then he just, hey, Uta, remember me? And Uta's like, oh, Luffy, hey, man. And then Shanks Luffy spills the beans that Shanks is Uta's dad, okay, to the entire crowd of, like, 10,000s of people, and also all over the visual Den Mushis, Luffy's just like, oh, yeah, of course I know her. She's Shanks' daughter. And then everybody all over the world is like, what? You know, and then Uta's like, Luffy, oh, well. Because as part of her abandonment issues, another reason why she's doing this big giant concert is to kind of get attention from her dad. And she's like, I'm going to throw this giant concert, and then Dad's definitely going to show up. And she's like, so Luffy, where's Shanks at? You have his hat on, right? So where's he at? And, you know, Luffy's like, I don't know where he is. And Uta's like, what? No, he has to be here. So there's also that issue, you know? So anyway, she sings I'm Invincible next, which is a great song because this was a song that I had not heard a million times before this. So Otto sings I'm Invincible. This is where Uta summons really cool, badass golden armor, and she has a shield and a spear, and she's like a crown, and she's dancing around the battlefield and just beating the crap out of these pirates. And then Oven shows up and Brûlé shows up, and she beats the crap out of them. And it's like, I'm invincible! And it's like, oh, the whole crowd goes wild. And I'm like, great, this is amazing, okay? So I'm Invincible just kind of extends that further, where this is like this is what she imagined it would be like. You know, this is like her being invincible, being the ultimate hero of the masses. Okay, I am your voice. All of the oppressed people of the world that are being oppressed by pirates, but also Marines, by the world government. I will be your hero. I will literally be your knight in shining golden armor, and I will save you all. I will take all of your burdens onto me. You can rest easy. You can all hide behind my shield because I will save you all. Okay. And that's like the ultimate viewpoint. This is like, you know, I guess I said New Genesis was her idealized self. This is probably more of that. Okay, that was more of just like the beginnings of it, her idea. This is like her apex of that. Okay. The next song, oh, by the way, there's also flashbacks where we hear her sing. Sometimes not all of Uta's songs, not all of Otto's songs are sung the entire way through. Some of them get cut off at certain points in the movie for like dramatic effect, okay? Well, the next song she sings is Backlight. Backlight represents Uta's anger. Okay, so the mask is beginning to crack a little bit at this point, and she's beginning to let more of her anger out at the world. Her anger for Shanks for abandoning her, the anger that she feels for herself, you know, for summoning Top Musica, okay? And this is the one where you really get a sense for Otto's range. New Genesis and I'm Invincible kind of follow the same kind of really upbeat, energetic, like Japanese rock music, pop music kind of thing, right? Kind of follows in that. Backlight is more of just like screaming, letting it out, okay? And so like primal scream therapy essentially for Uta, okay? So it is definitely necessary for her to have this step here to just like begin to just shout and scream, and it's like it's okay to like let your emotions out, all right? Then after Backlight, we have Fleeting Lullaby. Fleeting Lullaby is all about her sadness, her apprehension, her anxiety, which she feels. Okay, there's actually a music video for this, and I would definitely suggest to go check it out. So just type in, like Uta, Otto, Fleeting Lullaby. Fleeting Lullaby. There's this really good music video with Uta, kind of like in a CG 3D kind of style, where there's like a very like scared Uta like walking around, and there's like an evil version of her that's like, smiling and smirking. That's like literally her anxiety like made manifest, and it's just like, her guilt and everything is just like there, right there in that figure, okay? And she's like kind of running away from it, okay? So that kind of represents that there. Then it all culminates in the big one. This is my favorite song in the entire movie. It's probably going to be a lot of people's favorite song in the entire movie. And this is really also you get a sense for Otto's range here, because things get intense with this. When Uta finally sings Tot Musica, and she brings the demon god to life. Holy shit. So, I can't even do it a justice. The ambiance here. We go from happy, energetic, like she's literally flying around the entire concert venue, making like stuffed animals for all the little kids and summoning like everybody's favorite food, and like you can eat whatever you want. You can have candy, you can have meat, you can have cake, whatever. You want a giant gifts area. She's just making candy and gifts and Christmas presents for everybody. I'm like, oh my God, Uta, you're great, you're awesome, right? Okay. And there's a point, though, where the concert goes on and on and on, and time still passes in the Uta world the same way that it does in our world. So, like, a few hours into the concert, she's like, okay, we're going to sing forever, right? And then there's some people in the concert venue that they don't know they're in the Uta world yet. They're like, okay, Uta, but we got to get home. This was fun, but I got to get back home. I got work tomorrow. I got to tend to my sheep. It's like there's even a scene that's like, hey, it's like, because Uta's like, what do you mean? You don't have to work anymore. You don't have to struggle anymore. You can just stay here. You don't have to go to school anymore. And there's one random person in the crowd that's just like, I like school. Like, it's like, okay. And I was just like, hey, come on, Uta, I like to go to school. And I'm like, oh, that's good. That's a good message, So Uta basically like cracks at that point, because she's like, she did not expect this as an option. Because all she knows about the world is that pirates are attacking, and the thing is and people have it really rough, and they just want to listen to her music. So that's what she gave them. And she's like, why don't you? But I gave you what you wanted. We'll sing forever. Isn't that what you wanted? And they're like, yeah, I mean, we love you, Uta. Thank you. I mean, you're a great person. We thank you for all the toys and food and presents, but we got to get home. You know what I mean? And then the mask just shatters at this point, okay? And it's all coming out at this point. It's all coming out. The abandonment issues, the daddy issues, the guilt from massacring an entire island, the loneliness that she felt living on an island with just one other person for the last 12 years of her most like formative years, right, of her teenage years and stuff like that. The addiction, the fact she hasn't slept in 2 weeks and just chowing down on the mushrooms constantly, that all cracks apart. And she sings Tot Musica. It is such a weird song, all right? It just reverberates in the back, okay? And you kind of have to listen to this song in a theater, because the back speakers, man, they really kind of like, it really matters there. The lyrics, when they're on screen, take the appearance of like Norse runes. So like runic, not Japanese, not English, just runic, just appears on the screen. There's a music video of this as well that you need to check out. And it's also like Uta expresses herself as this happy, pop sensation. She's great. But like when she starts to like lose her sanity a little bit, also from the lack of sleep, like she kind of gets the crazy anime girl eyes with like, hi, what's going on here? And it's just like the bags under her eyes become apparent, and she gets the wide eye, just kind of like, why are you leaving my concert? Don't you want to stay with me forever? And she does like the head tilt thing, like, and yeah, by the way, one could probably argue this movie would have probably never taken place. Like, the main premise would have probably not happened if Uta just, like, didn't take the mushrooms and just got some sleep, and maybe just, like, because that's a big part of this right now. She has not slept for a while, okay? So, Tot Musica is summoned, this giant music demon. It basically takes the appearance of a bunch of different musical instruments together, and it changes form a lot. You can actually make out what the hell it is, though, compared to, like, Bullet when he was going to his, like, giant kaiju form in Stampede. You couldn't even make out what that thing was half the time. There was so much, like, there was this filter over everything. Actually, Stampede has more of a red filter than Film Red does, oddly enough, and it was covered in, like, smoke and, like, CG steam and fog the entire time. You can never really make it out. This thing changes appearance a lot, but you can kind of see what it is. Also, by the way, something additional, when I was watching the movie, and I watched it on a pretty big screen, too. I actually watched it in an AMC theater in, like, the biggest auditorium they had, which they actually called the Big D. The Big D auditorium at the AMC theaters. So that's kind of funny, just because I'm watching a One Piece movie in the Big D. Just, there it is. Anyway, there was, like, only 8 people in there, like I said. But, like, there was a pretty big screen, but there's so much crap moving around in a lot of these music sequences. Like, the camera is panning really fast, and there's a bunch of random notes and, like, CG and stuff, because Uta can just summon random crap. She can do costume changes, she can summon wings, she can summon things, actual music notes, like, dancing around the screen, and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of crap going on here. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, man, this should be an IMAX. And I thought, and it actually was. It was released in IMAX, and that makes way too much sense. So if you have the opportunity to see One Piece Film Red in IMAX, I think that was how it was really supposed to be watched, because this movie, on even a big screen that's like a normal size screen, it's just all over the place, and you'll be watching it, and you'll be like, wait, what about, oh, there's a character on the top left and the character on the bottom right. I'm like, oh, wait, it's gone. Okay, now this character, oh, wait, now it's like, whoa. You get whiplash, because things are moving around a lot. There's a lot of CG in this movie with the way Uta's, like, dance numbers are done and everything like that. And it's good. It's fine. It's just, it begs to be watched in IMAX, not in, like, a regular setting, okay? And I don't know how the hell this will translate when it's on, like, you know, watching it on, like, you know, on demand or whatever like that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, if you could see it in IMAX, definitely see it in IMAX, okay? I didn't have that opportunity. There's no IMAX theater, like, immediately around here. The nearest one, I think, is in Pittsburgh. But, yeah, so anyway, Top Musica gets summoned, okay? And Uta basically cracks. She also traps all of the, much like Sugar, she traps all of the concert goers into bodies of toys. Because she's like, wait, I know, you just need more fun, right? Ultimate fun. I'll turn you all into toys. That means you'll have fun, right? And it's also this very dramatic scene where, like, the entire concert venue, like, fills up with water, and all of the toys and the people are, like, trapped in the water, like, floating around in toy bodies. And, like, Uta, why are you doing this, you know? And Uta's just there, like, crying because she just doesn't understand. This wasn't supposed to be how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to just have a happy concert forever, peace and harmony, and where's my mushrooms? Oh, all right. So, what's going on in the rest of the world while this is happening? Okay, well, the Gorosei are watching the concert, and they're a little perturbed by this, and they actually bring up at one point that if Uta's song world spreads to the entire planet, 70% of the population of the planet could die. 70% of the global population. The global population. It's also mentioned that if Uta dies while she has the song world active, everybody in the song world is stuck there forever. They don't get ejected. So if Uta is killed while they're in the world, so after, like, lack of sleep, if she just dies, they're stuck there forever. You can't get out, okay? The only way to get out, other than Uta, like, allowing you to get out, or Uta falling asleep. Uta has to fall asleep for the ability to end, but she's you know, hopped up on the mushrooms. She's hopped up on the shrooms, ladies and gentlemen. So the only other way to get out is for her to summon Top Musica, who works as a bridge between the worlds, and that's the whole point. Like, Top Musica is like a music demon from the song world that can come into the real world and, you know, destroy everything, because he's, like, supreme ruler, and that's how he, like, you know, burns Elgia down and everything like that, right? Okay. So, Top Musica kind of needs to be summoned for this, okay? But it just does a lot on, if anything, maybe this is the closest thing to therapy that Uta has had, like, her entire life. So, whatever, we'll go ahead with it. Luffy tries to stop her, but he doesn't want to hurt her, you know? So he can't really fight her, even when he still has his Devil Fruit abilities and everything. He can't physically bring himself to hurt Uta. He's like, this shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be doing this right now, or whatever. There's also the Marines that, you know, get wind of this, and in the real world, they go to Elgia, but Uta can actually, so Uta can kind of exist in both. She can kind of be in the dream world, in the Uta world, and in the real world. So she meets the Marines on Elgia in the real world, where all the concert goers are knocked knocked out, and she can like literally use their comatose bodies as like zombies to attack the Marines. Kizaru is there, Fujitora is there. Fujitora seems to not remember that he can control gravity, which is something that is massively useful, I would imagine, when dealing with a large population of people that are coming after you. And the whole thing with the Marines are like, you know, don't hurt, these are just innocent civilians, you can't hurt them, you can't injure them. And so they're like attacking, and they're not just all civilians. Some of them are pirates, they have weapons. Some of them are the Marines that also get knocked out, so they have guns, so they're firing. So there's civilians that are getting shot in the crossfire and everything like that. So Fujitora could easily just use his Zushi no Mi to, like, not a lot of gravity, but just a little bit of gravity to just kind of, like, pin them to the ground so they can't attack. You know, not enough to hurt them, but enough to, like, they can't move. And he doesn't even use his ability at all, I don't think, so that kind of sucks. Let's see. So the Marines are trying to do something about it, but that's going to be an issue. Also, at the same time, what else? I'm trying to think. I lost my train of thought here. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie. Akainu's in the movie, but he's barely in the movie. He's just kind of, we cut over to Marine HQ, and he's like, we need to stop Uta! You know, and that's pretty much it. Let's see here. Let's talk about, oh, there's a scene with the Celestial Dragon. There's a scene with Charlos in this that's great, where Uta meets Charlos, and Charlos is in the dream world, but he doesn't know it, and he's just like, oh, Uta, I will pay 1 billion berries for you. You can come back to my house and sing for me. And then, of course, Uta is just like, oh, I know you. I read about you in a book. You're the Celestial Dragons. You love slaves and don't like anybody to have any rights but you. It's just like, she just says it right to his face. And, of course, because they're in the Uta world, she can basically, like, you know, really take Charlos down a peg or two in that scene. So while Luffy punching Charlos in the face was great, this was like Charlos being humiliated and just being completely outclassed by, like, a character who's essentially God in this dimension. So that was, like, a really fun scene just to see Charlos just kind of, like, humiliated in that sense, because that's not something he's used to there. We also have Kobe and Helmeppo there. They're in the dream world. They team up with Blue and O. Oh, we see Khalifa here. Khalifa making her debut as a CP0 agent. So she is a Cypher Pool 0 agent. I think that was already kind of confirmed. Most of the CP9, like Jabra, Kumadori, Fukuro, that we haven't gotten to see yet in the manga, they are still Cypher Pool 0 agents, just like Kaku and Lucci are. Okay, so we see Khalifa there wearing her Cypher Pool 0 outfit. So that's pretty cool. That's a little thing for the future there. Everything basically comes to a head when Uta is straight up about to kill Luffy. Uta has Luffy's straw hat in the dream world, so it's not his real straw hat. She rips it. Now, it's a dream world, but Luffy still sees his straw hat get ripped, and that's where he, like, loses it. And there's a scene where Uta summons her, like, soldiers to, like, basically position Luffy in the same spot that Roger was in. So Roger was about to be executed with the two, like, you know, like, spears in front of him. You know, Uta kind of recreates that. Her whole thing is like, you know, Luffy, stop being a pirate. Just stop being a pirate and hang out here and be happy and sing forever. Why can't you just do that? And so Luffy has to explain to her, like, you know, what dreams really are and, like, why you can't just force people to do that and everything like that, about freedom and everything. So Luffy is about to die, like, straight up. So he's on the ground in the real world in a coma. He can't move. Uta in the real world takes out a knife, takes out a dagger, and is about to, like, stab Luffy in the heart. Like, she's bringing down the dagger, and then Shanks shows up at the last minute and grabs the knife. And so it's Shanks and Uta meeting for the first time in years, you know, standing over or crouching over Luffy's unconscious body. And so Shanks is there, and he's just like, you know, it's been a while since I've heard you sing. You know, I missed you, Uta. And then Uta begins to break down and cry. And at this point, though, like, top music kind of takes over. And then, like, that's the major fight there, the major climactic fight of the movie, where we have the red-haired pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates. The Straw Hat Pirates in the Uta world fighting against Top Musica. At the same time, in the real world, we have Shanks' red-haired pirates fighting him. Because the only way to defeat Top Musica and merge the two worlds is to defeat it in the same way at the same time in both dimensions, okay? So that's the way we're doing this. Now, this leads to some really good scenes, because we see a lot of the red-haired pirates fight for the first time. We see Howling Gab, who has, like, that power that El Drago had in the first One Piece movie with, like, the voice energy ki blast ability where he can, like, yell an energy wave. We see Honda and Lucky Roo. Honda like kicks Lucky Roo, and Lucky Roo turns into a ball, and he like buzzsaws and like attacks anything around him like a death ball. That's cool. Obviously, we see Ben Beckman using his gun, Yasop with a gun. We see, oh, Shanks can apparently light Griffin on fire. He could just light his sword on fire, which I'm not, like, that's not a complaint. Like, it's a Shanks we're talking about here. If Shanks wants his sword to be on fire, I'm pretty sure he just has to look at it and be like, be on fire. And then just, it'll ignite. So Shanks can do that. He doesn't have a devil fruit or anything. He could just spontaneously combust his saber Griffin, which makes perfect sense there. So another really good scene at this point is because the Straw Hats have to be working entirely with, you know, they have to communicate with other worlds, even though they're in another dimension, right? We have this scene, and it's kind of like fudged a little bit, where it's just like, if you have really good observation hockey like Katakuri does, or like a father-son bond like Yasop and Usopp do, then you can kind of see what the other person is seeing in the other world. And I guess Usopp has observation as well. So because of that, Usopp is able to see what Yasop sees, and he's like, I can see what my dad sees. And Yasop's like, there you go, you little pipsqueak or whatever. And it's because of that Usopp is able to coordinate all of the attacks in the dream world, in the Uta world, with the real world where Yasop is. It's like, okay, everybody attack the right leg of Top Musica. Boom! Now everybody attack the left arm. Boom! And it's like right arm, left leg. Boom, boom. We're like reverse Exodia here. And then finally, of course, dead center, the head, it's going to be Luffy and Shanks. And so Luffy in the Uta world goes into Gear 5th. He's in Snake Man for the majority of it. You only see Gear 5th for like maybe a minute or so, all things considered, in various shots that aren't really, you don't get one clear image of it. You don't get like one dramatic scene where Luffy's like, Gear 5th, boom, you see it. No, it's like from the back or from the side or in silhouette or whatever, but it's still really cool. So Luffy goes into Gear 5th, and then Shanks has his flaming sword Griffin, and they're like, oh, ooh, ah, and they both attack at the same point in different dimensions, and they, boom, defeat Top Musica. So the demon is defeated, but everybody's still trapped in the world, which, of course, at this point, Uta is, like, you know, about to die. Shanks has, like, some freaking NyQuil or something, and he's just like, Uta, drink the damn medicine, you know? And then Uta, like, knocks it away, and she's like, no, everybody's still trapped. I need to sing one more song to free their souls. And so she does. She sings one final song, and I believe this is the world's continuation, I believe. I think that's it. I don't remember all of these songs exactly, but it's a very nice song. And this, of course, represents, as Top Musica represents all of the loss she suffered, all of the guilt. He's finally letting it out, finally venting for all this crap. At that point, the world's continuation is when she apologizes for everything she's done. She's realized what she did was wrong, and she also begins the steps for healing, okay? The healing and her betterment of her mental health, hopefully. Okay, that's when she realizes, like, okay, and that's what that song represents, and that's essentially the end there. In most One Piece movie fashion, the ending is very quick. Basically, Luffy and the gang just wake back up, and they're on the Sunny, and oh, I haven't talked about the Sunny yet. Hold on. The Sunny is sailing away. Luffy wakes up. He's like, what? Where's Shanks at? And Zoro's like, oh, they're over there, and their ship is sailing away, and we just have a shot of Luffy kind of looking at Shanks' ship, the Red Force, sailing away. Uta's apparently on board, and then that's kind of the end of the movie, like right there, okay? So, yeah, one thing about the Sunny that happens, and it's like, the Sunny, so Uta can also change people's bodies. She changes Beppo and Blueno into kind of like these little chibi versions of themselves where they can't really fight or use their abilities all that much. And she also changes the Thousand Sunny into an anthropomorphic being, which you actually saw before in like a lot of the promotional art. I was thinking maybe there was some really cool stuff you could do with that. Like the Sunny could talk and like communicate with the Straw Hats and be like, hey, I'm the Sunny. Thanks for everybody loving me so much and traveling around with me. I love having you guys around. No, the Sunny literally just transforms into this little chibi like lion that just says Sunny. That's it. Like it's like basically Uta transforms the Sunny into a Pokemon, basically. And Sunny is just like, Sunny, 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 Sunny. So there's like some cute scenes with the Sunny, but like that's it. That's all they are. That's all they coalesce to. It's not like the Sunny has a moment where the Sunny talks to Frankie or whatever, like, thank you for building me or anything like that. No, it's just Sunny, Sunny. And then that's it. Okay, it's a Pokemon. Okay, so and that's the end of the movie, really. Now, There's a lot of stuff to unpack with this. Just like how I did with One Piece Stampede, I had like the whole movie discussion, and then I did a separate video analyzing Bullet's character. I definitely, if I could do a whole video on Bullet's character, I could do like a 3-part series on Uta's character, because holy shit, right? Okay, so is Shanks to blame? I think I'm gonna leave it out with this. Is Shanks to blame for all this? I think you could definitely make a pretty solid argument that he is. Shanks's problem here is you have Uta, who, you know, doesn't understand her powers. She sings, she summons a music demon. Not her fault. She didn't know what the music was. She was 9 years old at the time. She summons this demon that kills an entire island. Like, that happened. Like, the island, like, all the citizens are dead. And it is directly because of her summoning that demon. Not saying it's her fault, but she would feel that crushing guilt, okay? Now, they did not tell her that she did that immediately. She found that on her own years later, okay? She wakes up on Elgia, Gordon is there with her, and the Red Hair crew leave. They just leave. And the only explanation that Shanks gives to Gordon on why he's abandoning Uta on the island is Uta can't stay cooped up on a pirate ship the rest of her life. She needs to spread her wings and become a singer. And then the red hair pirates leave. And they're sad. They're upset. You know, we saw that in the episode, like they're leaving Uta. Okay. Shanks. Do you not see any possible issue with abandoning your daughter with no explanation? They don't have a goodbye scene together. He just leaves her. Abandoning your daughter on an island where she annihilated the entire population save for one dude. You just assume, like, oh yeah, she'll probably never find out about that. Also on the island is a sheet of music that, when summoned by someone that has the song fruit, summons an ancient music demon that could do this whole thing all over again. There could be literally any other island on the planet you could have left Uta. There is a million different ways you could have handled this situation. This was the objectively worst that you could have done. Now, from really what I take away from this, Shanks is just a shitty dad, honestly. But this is really the worst. It's like, what if, so you're abandoning your daughter. She's going to grow up thinking you abandoned her because you never gave her an explanation other than just, you need to spread your wings and be a singer. She's going to spend her whole adolescence, her teenage years on this island, essentially by herself. No one else her own age to play with or interact with, not learning about the outside world in the slightest. And by the way, you might blame Gordon for this. No, just Gordon maybe it might be a little bit to blame here, but Shanks is the majority. He was Uta's father, essentially. That is her stepfather. She looked up to him. She said, like, I love you. You're my dad, you know? And he straight up abandoned her, okay? At least Gordon. Now, you might argue, like, why didn't Gordon take Uta off the island? And that's legitimate, you know? Like, why didn't, you know, Gordon just take Uta somewhere else, you know? But maybe he was... I actually don't know. Actually, thinking about it now, I don't know why Gordon just didn't do that. But still, like, Gordon was, like, pressed into this issue. Maybe he felt that, like, okay, you know, Shanks is trusting me with Uta. Maybe Gordon was scared. Maybe Gordon was afraid of what she would use her powers for if, you know, he took her somewhere else in the world or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. If anything, Gordon and Shanks are both to blame here, but I would put most of the blame on Shanks, okay? Because he could have done this way better. He could have taken her. He could have come back for her. What was stopping him there? He's like, okay, the Marines, like after the disaster at Elgia, the Marines were attacking. So Shanks kind of had to leave right then and there, okay? But why couldn't Shanks have just, like, left Uta there for 6 months, a year, like summer camp or whatever, and be like, okay, Uta, we got to get going now, but we'll be back. Don't worry. And then he comes back a year later and picks her up and just like, okay. Also, she needs to learn how to use her powers, Shanks. She needs to learn, like, this would be the best to travel with you. You're pirates with devil fruit abilities. Some of you have devil fruit abilities. I mean, maybe they don't. I mean, Howling Gab might have a devil fruit from what we saw in this movie. But at any rate, they're pirates. They have a better handle on this kind of crap than, than Gordon does. Gordon's just like a music dude. He's just like, I'm just a conductor. That's all I got. I don't know shit about devil fruit abilities or whatever. And also, like, I guess the movie kind of ends with Shanks realizing this because Uta travels with the red hair crew afterwards. I guess she leaves with them. So I don't know if this is going to be relevant at all. Like if Uta's going to be canon in the story, it'll be different if it is. But yeah, I kind of blame Shanks for this. You know what I mean? Where, you know, he's basically like leaving his daughter, and also he knows that her abilities are based on song and emotion. So abandoning her like that, like, did you think that it would just never become an issue? Was it so impossible for you ever just like, not even like, there are so many ways. Why didn't Shanks leave a Den Den Mushi behind or some bullshit? You know what I mean? Why didn't Shanks leave like, hey, Gordon, here's a Den Den Mushi so we can stay in contact with Uta. Make sure she's okay. This is like the first time Shanks has seen her, and it literally is only when there's a world-ending disaster, when your daughter is having a serious mental breakdown, is the only time when Shanks is like, I should probably go and save her. I should probably go fix that. You know, like, yeah, you should, but like, there were other options here. You could have popped up at any other point in her life. Shanks is a dude that can get into Marijois. All right, he can make a meeting with the Gorosei happen. He couldn't snuck back onto Elgia every couple of years for Uta's birthday. Like, oh my god. And it's because of that she starts taking the mushrooms and she doesn't understand about the world. You can blame Gordon for that too, I guess, because Gordon did not properly like educate her about the other world, like what's going on in the world and why she was so sheltered. Wait a second. Was there ever even a reason for her to be as sheltered as she was? She has a whole song which is all about the crushing loneliness she felt in her life. Like the reason, like the music, the sheet music, the top music, the musica, it's on the island. It's sealed in a vault. Why didn't Gordon or Shanks just take her to another island and leave her there? Like, if they were going to abandon her anywhere else, I'm not saying Shanks should have abandoned her at all, but if they were going to abandon her anywhere, why wouldn't you just take her off of Elgia, keep her away from the evil demon music, the one island she should never go on, and take her to, like, a regular nice area, like a nice town like Water 7 or something. You know, not Water 7, but like it. You know, here's a town with people and kids your own age that you can play with and you can sing to and you can have fun and you can make bonds and you can maybe be adopted by another family and you can go to school and you can still learn to become a fucking singer. Like, there's nothing, like, so, yeah, I guess, okay, you know what? I blame Shanks and Gordon for this. Oh, man, they did not handle this well. And Uta was completely exonerated. Like, she found out, by the way, the more that she spends on Elgia, that just increases the chances of her finding out that she did this, you know? And that also was the impetus for this sort of thing. If you would have just taken off Elgia, because the world government doesn't know about Uta. At this point, when Uta's a little kid, they do not know she's a member of Red Hair Pirates. She does not know she's Shanks' daughter. And they also do not know that she was the one that actually caused the disaster at Elgia. That was all on Shanks' crew. That was the Shanks took the blame for that. And the only risk of having Uta summon Top Musica again is if she's on the island with the sheet music. If you take her off the island and she's no longer near the sheet music, you don't have to worry about summoning the damn Demon Lord anymore. Okay, take her somewhere far away and she can live her life, and maybe Shanks and Gordon could still teach her about her devil fruit power, and so she doesn't abuse it, and then she grows up and becomes a singer anyway and still follows her dream. There you go. Yeah, anyway, yeah, that's that. So I might make a whole extra video about Uta, but let me know what you think about this. I want to get everyone else's immediate feels for this. Maybe you think like, no, Tekking, you're wrong. Shanks did perfectly fine here. Every decision Shanks made was the smart decision. It was the only thing he could have done, Tekking. Or maybe I only saw the movie once. There might have been something in the movie that I forgot, maybe a line of dialogue that explained, like, why Uta absolutely could not leave Elgia, why she had to stay on that island, why she had to stay with Gordon, why she was so isolated. Maybe there was a better reason for that. Maybe the Top Musica would, like, follow her wherever she went, but that did not seem to be the implication. It seemed to be only on that island. So whatever. Let me know how you feel about that. I really liked the movie. I liked it more than Stampede. I'll say that much. I really liked the movie better than Stampede. Out of all of the One Piece movies, my initial reaction, well, not all of the One Piece movies, but like the recent ones. So like Strong World On, like the big theatrical ones that have like their like a big story and like characters and stuff. I might go out of the last 5 One Piece movies, I might go Strong World as number 1, Z is number 2, Red is number 3. Oh man, it sucks to when I put Stampede at the last, that doesn't mean like I hate it. It just means out of those 5, I like it the least. So I guess we'll go Gold after that, because I like Gold. Gold had some fun moments. And then at the very bottom, maybe Stampede. I definitely did not cover every single thing in the movie, so I apologize for that. I mean, I couldn't cover, like, every single moment. I thought about bringing, like, a notepad into the theater and, like, jotting down, like, in the dark, like, every little scene to kind of remember. But I could always make a follow-up video of this if, like, there was something that I really missed that I wanted to address. And I'm going to see the dub eventually, too, so I could always do this in, like, a part 2 or something, maybe, if I forgot something major. But, yeah, that was it. That's the major beats from the movie. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking, signing out. Later. Okay, and now, back to me. We're going to be talking about my second viewing of One Piece Film Red. Also, by the way, there were more people in the second viewing than in the first. There still weren't that many. I still saw it in the same theater, the Big D. But the first time I went, it was Thursday night. It was opening night. There was maybe 8 people in the theater. I saw it Sunday afternoon the second time, and there was at least a good solid dozen people in the theater. All right, maybe even more than that. Maybe even a baker's dozen. It was incredible. Okay, so couple of things. Probably the most notable thing about this whole thing, Uta dies at the end of this. So I know you were probably like in the first reaction of it, I was probably going on and on about like, oh yeah, Uta, it's nuts. Well, at least, hey, she's with Shanks now and she's going to heal. She's going to be better. Maybe she could go to therapy. And probably everybody is probably screaming at their, you know, their YouTube device or whatever they're watching this on. Like, Tekking, you know she's dead, right? And I'm like, wait, did she die? Because the thing is, like, the first time I watched the movie, I'm like, I didn't even consider that as an option, because I'm like, they're introducing Shanks's daughter, like not his biological daughter, but like introducing Shanks's daughter. Like, that's a big deal, you know? And it's like the movie just kind of ends, you know, which is like a lot of other One Piece movies do that. Like, that's not weird. Stampede was the same way. Like, Luffy punches out Douglas Bullet. They get on the Sunny. Sabo helps them get away with a fire path thing. And then that's it. Movie's over and roll credits, you know what I mean? So it was kind of like that with this, where Uta sings a song and she's in Shanks's lap and she looks very weak, but I'm like, okay, but you know, that's Shanks's daughter. She's a brand new character that's kind of important, I guess, to Shanks's life. They're not just gonna kill her, right? Like, they could still save her, right? I mean, they had the medicine. I mean, yeah, she threw it away, but like, they have other ways to save her, right? And so the movie ends with Luffy waking up on the Sunny, and he's like, where's Shanks at? And then Zoro's like, he points out to sea, and they look, and they see the Red Force sailing away from the Sunny, and Luffy just kind of looks, and we do see a shot on board the Red Force, and it's obscured in shadows a lot because, like, the sun's going down, so, like, the shadows are really there. It's kind of dark. But it's a scene that kind of looks like all of the red hair crew standing around in a circle looking down at something. And then it cuts back to Luffy, and Luffy looks really solemn, and he puts his hat on, and he looks out to sea, and then boom, you know, One Piece Film Red, ending credits. And the ending credits are kind of happy, because they're like, here's everybody that, like, went to the concert. Like, that little kid made it back home, and it's like, here he is with his sheep or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, end of movie, whatever. All right, and then I left. And then in the second viewing, I'm sitting there like, did Uta die? Like, and I looked it up online, and it's like, yeah, the implication is she is dead. I'm like, oh my God, that's brutal. That is rough. That really, like, puts it into a new perspective for me, honestly, that they would do that. Now, obviously, just like with a lot of other things in the One Piece movies, the events of the movies themselves are not canon. So, like, in Strong World, I felt like I've said this a million times at this point, but I'll say it again. Shiki is a canon character, but the events of Strong World, like the Straw Hats meeting Shiki, going to Merville in the sky and all that, the crazy clown dude and everything, that's all non-canon, okay? But Shiki himself is canon. And in fact, Shiki might not look the same in the manga as he does in the movie, like with the steering wheel in his head. He might not have that in the manga when he finally shows up, okay? So, but he's still the same character. He still has, like, the Fuwa Fuwa Nomi and everything like that. So I thought that was going to be something similar with Uta. I thought they were going to do a thing where it was like, okay, obviously the Straw Hats meeting Uta and her doing this concert and almost killing 70% of the entire world. You know, that's not going to happen, but Uta herself might show up, and we even see her in silhouette in the manga. And then I'm starting to think, like, why would they kill her off? And then I'm like, wait a second. that actually makes more sense, because in order to, like, incorporate Uta in the canon of the manga, that's going to be tough. But you know what would be easy? Just say that, rewrite it to the point where Luffy never met Uta, and maybe Shanks adopted her when she was a little kid and she was the musician of the red-haired pirates. Maybe she doesn't have the Uta no Mi. Maybe she doesn't have a devil fruit, but same thing like in the movie, like Shanks finds her in a treasure chest and they raise her and she's the musician, and then she dies. Something happens with her being on the pirate crew and it ends up her dying, and that helps shape Shanks's life. Okay, like where he's at right now is because he had this extreme loss of a child or adopted child at one point. Okay, so that helps to like give Shanks some more character development. You'd have to rewrite it to the point where Uta never met Luffy and that stuff to keep the original plot line of the manga consistent, but you could do it. Like, Uta died, maybe Uta's 2 years older than Luffy, so Uta was 9 when Luffy was 7 and they first met. You could write it where Uta died when she was 8 and never made it to Fuchsia Village, and Shanks just has to deal with that, okay? So, still feasible, and then in this movie is like a parallel plot line where, like, all the stuff happened where she did the concert and she was abandoned, and Elgia and everything. I don't think Elgia is going to be canon, or Gordon's not going to be canon. Oh, by the way, we need to get back to Gordon in a second here, because on a second viewing of this, okay. But anyway, yeah. So Uta dies, and I missed that in the first one, and I'm like, wow, that actually adds a lot more depth to this than a lot of other One Piece, movie characters do. And the fact that they would just go straight up and kill her, because once again, she wasn't a villain. Okay, she was extremely misguided. She had a lot of problems she had to deal with. A lot of this could be blamed on Shanks and Gordon on just their decisions on how she was raised. I don't consider her, yeah, it was her fault when she summoned Top Musica and she did the concert and everything. Like, I'm going to keep everybody trapped forever. So it was her fault, but at the same time, you could totally understand what let her arrive at that conclusion. Okay, it's just that she just didn't know any better, all right? Well, anyway, okay, so that's Uta dying, all right? Some other stuff about Shanks' crew that I forgot to mention, or I didn't even notice the first time I viewed it. So, first of all, there was a scene that I did want to talk about the first time, I just forgot to. There's a scene when Shanks arrives and all of the, the zombies rise up, like all of the concert goers that are controlled by Uta's power start attacking Shanks in the real world. It's an interesting scene because you get to see these crazy powerful pirates, like Yonko-level pirates, including Shanks, who is a Yonko, getting attacked by regular civilians. Now, that's interesting to me because that's just like, it's like a power scaling question kind of thing. Like, what would happen if you took, like, okay, I want you to picture the strongest, toughest dude that you know, or lady that you know in your personal life, okay? Like, maybe you go to the gym and you see this big jacked guy or girl at the gym and just like, yeah! Okay, I want you to picture that person going up against Shanks now, right? And you'd picture, like, okay, well, Shanks has hockey and has a sword, and, like they wouldn't be able to do anything. And you kind of see that in the movie where you see random civilians, and Shanks doesn't want to fight back, so he's just, like, taking the hits. So you have this big, tough guy that's, like, at the concert, and he's just like, ugh! And he's, like, punching Shanks in the face, and he's just like, Shanks does not care. So that's an interesting kind of, like, just the level that they're at. Like, if a regular civilian just went up to Whitebeard or Big Mom or Kaido and were just like, not even like me, like, I'm a nerd, I'll harm you, like, no, but like a big guy that like bench presses a lot, like, okay, bam, like, it still does nothing. Okay, so that's an interesting point there. We find out a little bit about what the crew does. Hongo, who is a character that we saw at Marineford, but was like, he was just given a name recently along with the other officers. Hongo is most likely the doctor of the Red Hair Pirates, okay? Because Hongo is the one that goes over to when one of the civilians got shot. Uta was like trying to stop the bleeding, but she can't stop the bleeding in the real world, only in the Uta world. So Hongo comes over and tries to help her, and even Uta says his name, and he's like, Hongo, you're helping me. And so Hongo's also the one that provides the medicine. Like Shanks has Uta at the end of the movie, and she's like, Hongo, the medicine now. And then Hongo tosses it. So Hongo is most likely the doctor of the red-haired pirates. That's interesting. Also, it's implied that Yasop has future sight. That was something else I missed out on the first viewing. So Katakuri shows up in the real world to help Shanks fight against Top Musica. And Katakuri was like, I can use my future sight observation to, glimpse my sister Brulee's sight in the Uta world. I don't know, that's kind of just drawn shit out of nowhere. Like, future sight all of a sudden allows to give him, like, he's able to see through other people's eyes, which is weird, but it's like, whatever, okay, fine. And then Shanks says, like, oh, I have a guy on my crew that can do that too. Okay, implying that Yasop has the same level of observation prowess that Katakuri does, if not better, which makes sense because Yasop being a sniper would make perfect sense for him to have future sight or even a higher level of observation than even that. Maybe Yasop has future sight, but he can see even further into the future than Katakuri can. Katakuri can only see like a couple of seconds, like maybe 6 seconds into the future. Maybe Yasop is so good at it, he could see like a whole minute into the future or something like that. So that was a really good scene of Yasop and Usopp working together to, like, I can see what my dad sees. I mentioned that in the first one, but like that was a really good highlight of the movie, definitely there. Let's see here. Then there's like a scene with Shanks fighting Kizaru very briefly. Not really fighting, it's just like one clash. But dude, just a clash to see Shanks of the Four Emperors clash blades with Admiral Kizaru. That itself was cool. He slices a whole damn like mountainside off, with his griffin blade. And then, it doesn't continue beyond that, but that was really cool to see. And then here's something I forgot about altogether in the first reaction. Shanks at the end of the movie, so they defeat Top Musica. Top Musica goes down back into the demon music underworld or whatever. We'll get back to Top Musica in a second. And then like all of the Marines are still surrounding them, and so they all hold guns. Like Kizaru is just like, well, that girl almost ended the entire world, so yeah, I'm gonna ask you that you hand her over to the Marines now. And then Shanks is like, you don't lay a finger on Uta. She's my daughter! And then boom, like giant god conquers Haki. And the only people that are really completely immune to it are Kizaru and Fujitora. Every other Marine, even Vice Admirals, are getting dropped by this. And Kizaru even brings it up. He's like, oh man, even some of the Vice Admirals are getting dropped by your Conqueror's Haki. And then Fujitora and Kizaru was like, alright, I guess we won't. And that's also a hint later on to what happens with Aramaki, okay? So, I don't want to hear any bullshit about like, oh, Aramaki pissed his pants when Shanks used his Conquerors. He's supposed to be an admiral. I'm like, this is Shanks exerting Conqueror's Haki when he's uber pissed off. Like, even if you're an admiral, you're not going to get knocked out by that, but it's going to send some shivers down your spine. It's going to be like, okay, So that was a really good scene there. So talking about Top Musica here, I'm usually very forgiving when it comes to One Piece villains and like what they're going to do, okay? Now, Top Musica, granted, was a little different, because when it came to the last few One Piece movie villains, we had, Douglas Bullet, who lacked pretty much any kind of character development. He was essentially Broly back in the original Broly movie, not the newer Broly movies that actually give him some more character development to work with, some more personality. He's like old school Broly. He's not even like legendary Super Saiyan Broly. He's like Broly Second Coming Broly, who just shouts the name of like Goku the entire Kakarot like the entire movie. That's kind of Douglas Bullet, right? Not a lot going for him. Gil Tesoro was a little bit better, but Zephyr was good. Zephyr was a good character. I liked Zephyr. But anyway, yeah, then you get to Top Musica though, who's like a demon, like a straight up demon from like music hell. All right, there's different varieties of hell. There's a cook hell, there's a navigator hell, there's a doctor hell, and there's a music hell. Okay, so if Brook doesn't watch what he's doing, he's gonna go there. All right, so I mean, like, look, does it fit in the One Piece world? Like, it's a demon. I will also remind you that in the 5th One Piece movie, they literally talk about, like, no, gods exist. Like, literal gods exist. and they influenced the world. That the fifth movie had like that cursed sword, and the cursed sword was cursed by like, there were gods and shit that made this sword, and then human beings like, tainted the sword or whatever. So it's like in the fifth movie they established like a whole pantheon of deities that are real. Okay, it's a movie, so I'm not really gonna hold to it all that much. Top Music is never going to be referenced again. In essence, it doesn't really have much of a personality either, but that's okay because it doesn't really need to. I didn't think really Top Musica, it's like more of an entity of just death and destruction and chaotic evil at its purest form that just, is awakened from its 10,000 years slumber or whatever. How does this fit into the lore of everything? It really doesn't, but once again, it's a movie, so yeah, if anything, it looks cool. It goes through all these different phases and stuff, and then it goes into like basically a Final Fantasy boss fight, where the entire world goes into space, and they're just kind of floating in space, and then Top Musica kind of turns into its final form, and it's just like, just like, and then they all have to fight it together, and it's like, that, by the way, I've said it in the original reaction to this, but I've been watching the Top Musica music video that Otto did with Uta. The animation is impeccable. Her screaming in this, and Uta just looks like a little bit more demonic than in the original, in the movie, and like, go check it out, please. It's amazing. Okay, just type in like One Piece Top Musica, Otto version or whatever. It's really good. So, let's see here. Oh, by the way, also in the dub, in case you haven't seen the dub yet, they keep all of Otto's songs in Japanese. I was wondering, like, are they gonna dub all of these over in English? Or are they gonna get an English, like, singer to redo all of Otto's songs? That'd be really silly if they did that, and they didn't, thankfully. So it's all that voice there. So yeah, I don't have a problem with Top Musica. Like, now, I have a problem on, like I said, the problems with Uta being on that island still stand. So in the first reaction, I went on and on about, like, okay, this is Shanks' fault and also a little bit of Gordon's fault. No, it's a lot of Gordon's fault. As I'm watching this again, it's both of their faults on what happens in this movie. Uta's death, and it's all made the worst by the fact that Uta dies at the end. Uta's death is directly caused by Shanks' actions and Gordon's actions. If they would have done things differently, then she would have been fine. So, first of all, my issue of Uta staying on the island where Top Musica slumbers still stands. It is the absolute last place in the entire world that she should be, and they keep her there, okay? And Shanks' logic seems to be like, before Top Musica awakened and destroyed the island, Shanks was like, hey, he having a conversation with Uta, like, hey, maybe you should stay here on Elgia and you should learn about being a singer, because this is the island of music. This is the place you learn to be a singer, right? And so Uta begins to cry and is like, no, I'm the musician of the Red Hair Pirates. I don't want to stay here. I want to travel with you. And it was this very heartwarming moment where Shanks is like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't understand. We'll ship out tomorrow. Just you and the crew. We'll go together, okay? And so then that night occurs where she finds Top Musica, she sings it, it awakens the demon, it possesses her, and it wipes out the whole island. And then Shanks is just like, well, yeah, she can't stay cooped up on a pirate ship her whole life. She needs to stay here and learn music. And I'm sitting there like, Shanks, everybody on the island is dead. Not trapped in the dream world, dead, gone. Okay, even if you want to say trapped in the dream world, whatever. They're not around anymore. The island is deserted, okay? It's a ruin. It's annihilated. Everybody's pretty much, I think, pretty dead, okay? Top Musica was firing laser beams and setting the whole damn island on fire. Those citizens are dead, all right? You're not going to be learning. I mean, yeah, Gordon is still there, but it's like Shanks is really missing out. Like, okay, well, everybody on the island's dead, and she's not going to have anybody her own age to have friends with or whatever. Whatever. Gordon, you teach her how to be a great singer on the island where the ancient sheet music is here, and that demon might wake back up, but it probably won't. Anyway, we got to get going. Now, Shanks also does say, like, we can't have Uta on the crew while we're being chased after by the Marines. Like, you were already pretty prominent pirates at this point. I think it would have been fine. You could have had Uta on the crew. It would have been fine. But then, not just Shanks, and also all the stuff with Shanks still stands. Shanks could have left a Den Den Mushi with Gordon. They could have communicated better. Shanks could have stopped by the island every year on her birthday or Christmas or something to say hi and check up on her and make sure everything's going okay, and then picked her up and taken her after the heat died down after the whole Elgia incident. But he didn't do any of that. He didn't do any of that. He didn't stop by Elgia once to say hi to his daughter and give her a birthday present. Not even to call her on a Den Den Mushi. Didn't even leave her a Den Den Mushi. So it's like, screw you, Shanks. You're kind of part of this. But then Gordon. So one of the big things I was wondering in the first movie, and the first, after that was like, why did not Gordon take her off the island, take her to another island with actual people on it where she could socialize and have friends her own age, and she could go to school and she could learn about the world because she had no knowledge about the outside world. That was another problem. And the only thing that Gordon taught her was how to sing. Gordon did not teach her anything about the outside world, really, other than like super, super basic stuff, okay? So that's a problem. Like, and then so the second viewing, I'm trying to like, okay, why did Gordon not take her off the island? Why was that such an issue? Why did she have to stay on the island that's abandoned, that also has the vault where an ancient music demon slumbers, and the only person can wake it up is Uta? Why not take her off the island? And the only explanation we have, there's a scene at the end of the movie where Gordon is like crying and he's apologizing to Uta, like, it's all my fault, Uta. I'm sorry. I did not take you off the island because I was afraid of your powers. Like, you were afraid of her powers. You were afraid of what her powers could do. Just take her off the island, you dumb shit. The demon's on the island. If you take her off the island, the demon won't wake up anymore. You need the sheet music to awaken it. I'm pretty sure the sheet music cannot follow her around wherever she is in the world. Like, you can keep that on the island. Also, Gordon follows that up by saying, I also couldn't destroy Top Musica because I'm a lover of music. Like, all right, you know what? First viewing, I was kind of sympathetic to Gordon, but you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. Gordon sucks. Gordon is a shitty person, all right? No, he's not a shitty person on purpose, but indirectly he is, okay? He was like, well, here's demon music. If Uta reads this, she can wake up a demon again and kill the whole world, potentially. Yeah, but it's like really good sheet music. I'm a music lover. I can't hope to get rid of it. Also, I was so surprised by that because, like, I thought it was going to be a thing where, like, you can't destroy Top Musica, like the sheet music. You can't destroy it. It's like magic or something. And so it's like you try to rip it, and it can't rip, or if you rip it up, it'll, like, just reform back together. But no, it implies that Gordon could have destroyed it, thrown it away, burned it. It was, like, 6 sheets of paper that you could have done anything with. But no, he decided not to because he's a true lover of music. And he decided to, was like, I can't take Uta off the island because if I take Uta off the island, her singing might summon Top Musica on another island where Top Musica is not slumbering on. So instead, I'm going to keep her on the island where Top Musica is. Dumbass, okay? So, yeah, and then, yeah, okay, so I blame Gordon, too, but also Shanks. They kind of deserve, maybe Gordon deserves a little bit more hatred in this version, but Shanks still kind of dropped the ball a lot on this, too. Just the fact of, like, I'm going to abandon my daughter on this island with nobody except one old dude to teach her music. She'll be fine. You know what I mean? She's not telling her about the outside world. She only found out about the outside world by accident when the Den Den Mushi's like washed ashore, and that was it. So Gordon is a really crappy father figure for Uta, and Shanks is not the best either. So yeah, those were the big things about the movie I wanted to bring up. Can't really think of anything else major. I am going to be doing a video on Uta, so I'm going to be sitting down. I'm going to I'll probably not watch the movie again, but, like, wait a little bit and see and, think about Uta's character and make a whole, like, video about that like I did with Douglas Bullet. So wait on that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I really wanted to say on the second viewing. That was, like, a big deal there. As for how I like the movie, honestly, yes, Uta's story is, like, from the second viewing was even more tragic from the more stuff that I remembered and I didn't pick up the first time. So that's really sad for Uta. But in exchange, I think I said that Film Red was, like, out of the most recent One Piece movies from Strong World, Film Z, Film Gold, Stampede, and Film Red. I think I said that Film Red was, like, my third favorite. It actually might be my second now. Strong World is still my favorite of all time, of the last five. But when it comes to Film Z or Film Red, Z's story was also really interesting, and he also, I believe, did die as well at the end. But it just seems more powerful when it comes to Uta, because Uta, you really get a sense like this didn't have to be this way. All right, Zephyr was a grown man that decided to do what he did. Okay, and so his story made sense too. It wasn't like Zephyr had no sympathy for what he was doing, but like Uta was like a child that was raised by Shanks and then abandoned essentially on an island by herself, which it didn't need to be. That didn't have to be the situation at all in the slightest. And because of Gordon and Shanks's decisions, she ended up becoming this person that tried to save the entire world and ended up like hopped up on shrooms and then died because of it. Okay? So that's even way more like impactful as a character to me. So I think I'm going to go Strong World, then Film Red, then Film Z, then Film Gold, then Stampede at the very bottom of the last 5 One Piece movies. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is going to be a big video, probably with all this extra stuff I'm adding in. This is probably going to be a 2-hour video, something like that. But hope you enjoyed it. Hope it took some time out of your day. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking, signing out.